Carl, any more? Oh, tell that story that you were telling me about your dad when he was driving.
Well, it's just that you were talking about, well, I mentioned Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
And, the Forrest Gump types. When my dad was when he was a taxi driver.
Yeah.
You used to have to, sort of do your bit for the local area.
Oh, God.
By taking the Forrest Gump people to Blackpool.
Yeah. Is that what they're called now, the Forrest Gump people? Is that what the organisations that support them ask for them to be referred to?
A minibus with, life is a box of chocolates.com.
Well, Forrest Gump types.
It must have been, so you work with these people?
It was,
the people with learning difficulties.
Yeah, and they used to get 5
Coming home must have been a busman's holiday.
So, he got 5 of them in the cab.
Yeah.
And he had to go to Blackpool, and 4 of them were really good, you know, behaving themselves, didn't mess about, weren't fighting and stuff, but there was one who was just causing loads of trouble and they couldn't control him. Oh, and what you've got to be able to do with people like that, you don't want them to get stressed out because it's not good for them. It stresses them out, and you could end up with a bit.
Thanks, Dr. Carl.
You could end up with a bit of a riot on your hands. So he thought, I'll nip this one in the bud right now, and he pulled up just on the outskirts of Blackpool, and he took the one out that was causing problems and put it in a wheelie bin.
Oh, no! Oh, I'm sorry, I apologise.
He did what?
Oh,
he did it for the good of the others. He put it in a wheelie bin, he was having a good time, he thought it was one of the rides.
Can you stop saying it?
Him.
Yeah.
He you know, he was having a good time, and once he calmed down, my dad went back and picked him up, and he was fine, he had a good time.
What, he left him in there the whole time the others were in Blackpool?
No, he left him there, not the whole day, probably about an hour and a half.
In a wheelie bin?
In a wheelie bin.
Why couldn't he get out?
Because, like, his arms were trapped on the thing. It's one of those
What, he tied him up?
No, do you know, like, because he was a big fella, and, like, he managed to get him in so his arms were down the side like that, so he was a bit trapped.
Wasn't he screaming and crying and stuff?
He was making a bit of noise, but do you know what I mean?
What, you feel served him right?
Well, but anyway, I didn't really want to talk about it. He just brought it up because of Forrest Gump.
Do his, family know about this? Is this the first time they'd have heard about this?
He didn't get asked to do it again. Because he had another problem similar to it where he had a little minibus, and it was his job to take a load of old women to the bingo hole, and it was miles away. And he took him there. There was no problem. About 10 old women in a minibus.
One of them was causing trouble, so he pulled over it.
No, right, so he took him there, everything's fine, he dropped him off, they had a lovely night, right, they had a lovely night, won a bit of cash, coming back, it's a bit of a late night, and they all started moaning at him, going, I want to be dropped off here, take me there, I want to be dropped off first, I've got to get up early, blah blah, you know, my husband's expecting me, I'm already late, take me here first, take me there, and he just pulled up, in the middle of nowhere, said, get out. And he made them get out, and they all called for taxis. They charged that company who was meant to be taking them home in the minibus, and he got the sack. But a similar sort of story. You can't be dealing with it when people don't sort of just calm down and, like, solve the situation.
Yeah.
They're just all like, I want to be dropped off first, take me here first, take me.
Yeah, so he acts like a madman. Good.
Oh, that was
Alright, we've got a crack on, haven't we, really? We've got,
says so much. Yeah.
Yes, Nick Drake, a song for the ladies this week from the album Brighter Later, At the Time of a City Clock. That's
Goodbye.
it. Yeah,
Goodbye.
see you next time.
Bye.
My mum and dad, right, they moved to this little house, right, and they had loads of furniture that they've collected over the years without chucking out, and they've moved to this small house, so they just had too much furniture, right, and they had this double bed, and that was for, like, you know, when friends come round and that, they can stay there, but the problem was he wanted to sort of put these wardrobes in the bedroom, right?
Right.
That went on either side of the bed.
Sort of wrapped around the bed.
Yeah, but because the room was so small, he thought, I can sort that out.
Yeah.
Right? And he sawed the bed.
He sawed the bed?
He sawed the whole thing, so you've got, like, your mattress, your bed, and everything.
What, he just sliced some off?
Like a big sandwich, just cut a bit off the
edge. Cut the crust off.
How much is that, would you say?
About 8 inches, 6 inches.
8 inches.
But hold on, but that won't work. Because it'll all fall out the side, and then what happened to the springs and all the supports and stuff? It'll just collapse.
It didn't all come out and that. I mean, it's not the comfiest bed. but the weird thing is, he did it, and even though it's only like that 8 inches or whatever, it totally ruined it. It's
Yeah.
like,
Well, of course it would.
no, but what do you think I mean? I don't mean it ruined it as in it looks a mess.
No, it would have been uncomfortable.
Not even that though, just the fact it's that little bit shorter. It's like, God, for 2 people this is hard work now. This is like, you haven't got enough room, even though it's only 8 inches.
Why did he build the wardrobes first, without measuring, putting the...
I think he did all that and then thought, oh, it'll easily fit in there, and it didn't, so he had to sort of saw a bit off the bed. But it's just weird how only 8
Did
inches...
he use one of those electric saws?
Yeah.
And there
That's
was just,
amazing.
presumably there was just kind of
What
sort of
did it-
material and wood just flying everywhere.
What did he do with the legs? Did he have to move the legs
He
in a
moved,
bit?
he moved the legs. Looking at it, right, once it's got like the quilt on it and everything, you wouldn't know. I was like,
Sure.
yeah, that's alright, you've done a good job.
Yeah.
And I went to bed at night, he's like, you know, sleep well. Got up in the morning after having about 45 minutes sleep and said, something not right with that.
Yeah.
And he
You
goes, "What do
really are
mean?"
your father's son, aren't you?
I said,
There's something not
I said,
right
it's
with
not
that.
right. And he said, oh, well, I said, what have you done? It doesn't seem the same. And he said, oh, I had to shorten it, sort of thing, you know, to fit in the gap. I said, well, I can't sleep in it. I said that, and there was a big kerfuffle. My mum was saying, look, you have our bed then, and we'll sleep in that one. And my dad was like, sod that,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's ruined.
you know.
Some idiot cut it.
So, there was a big debate going on about where we should sleep, and I was saying, look, you know, I only come and see you, like, every couple of, you know, probably once
Can
every
I,
6 months.
I'm not being funny, but next time we go home, can I film it? Just for, I mean, Channel 4 or something.
Well, you know, I mean, the Osbournes is not on at the moment. The
Yeah, I know.
Pilkingtons.
Be,
That would be extraordinary.
can we film it?
That's brilliant.
Is anyone from Channel 5 listening to this show?
Or Bravo.
Yeah.
The Pilkingtons.
Weird, though. Weird.
Play a record?
What do you want to play? Do you want to play, do you fancy playing something of yours?
What, have we got
I
anything?
don't know, something that was sent in to you, maybe?
Oh yeah, no, I'll tell you, yeah, I'd like to play this. Yeah, Bronze Age Fox. Band from Bristol, my neck of the woods.
Always
play
working,
the tune, play
Carl,
the tune.
always working. He's
Play the
always
tune.
working. He's on the ball. He's on the ball. He's on the Bobby ball. Anne Robinson put in the Welsh into room 101.
What, because she didn't like him and that?
Yeah, she just said, well, they're going in the,
She said it slightly more eloquently than that.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
I can the people or the place?
I don't know.
I think it was the place and therefore the people.
Yeah.
What do you mean, yeah?
No, well, you know, my mum and dad have sort of moved from Manchester. They reside now in Wales.
Oh, yeah.
And it is,
Look at his face, turning his nose up.
no, but it is pretty depressing. Do you know what I mean? It's just one of them places that it's like you go back in time and that when you go there. I mean, maybe the major cities there, maybe Cardiff is alright.
What, even coming from Manchester, it's like going back in time.
It's just, it's like one of them places that it feels like every day is Sunday. Do you know what I mean? It's just depressing and grey and slate
Lots of
everywhere.
vicars walking around going, I'm late.
Well, yeah, it's the sort of attitude they have, right? This is true because my mum and dad live there and that, right? And they love it. It's all right. It's an healthy place to go when you get older and that. But this is why they don't move on in Wales.
Well, I've got to start to make another.
No.
Sorry to any Welsh people listening. We're not saying you don't move on. Carl is.
No, but
Sorry about the little Chinese shoes
the
again as
thing
well.
is, it's good that in a way that they do that, and they don't want to be like, you know, rushing about everywhere because the way London isn't that great either, is it? Because it's totally opposite here. Right,
Yeah.
so I'm not having a go. It is a bit dull. I think even people who live there will agree with me.
Okay.
Right, but like one of the shops that my mum and dad use, right, it's only a little sort of villagey type shop. They can't be bothered staying open for hours and hours, right? Because there's not enough people use the shop.
Yeah.
So what you do is they get used to what you buy,
They
and
leave it out
they put it in a phone box outside.
They put it in a phone box.
Yeah.
so it doesn't get wet.
So my dad's loving that.
Well,
Once he
yeah.
found that out, it was like brilliant.
But how is that a bad thing? That's brilliant.
Well, it's not for other people. It is for my dad because he's picking up all sorts of stuff.
Oh
Chickens.
no, he's not.
Oh yeah.
He's not nicking other people's shopping.
Well, it's not like nicking, is it? Because it's not theirs yet.
Oh, and you've stitched him up on radio.
Well, of course, because they're going to think, who's that? Who is there in town with a Manc accent?
Who,
hangs
keeps,
around a lot,
who
yeah.
keeps making phone calls. And he's getting fatter.
Yeah.
That's there.
Stitched him
I
right
love
up
that.
there,
I love
Carl.
that your dad was excited when he found out.
I can't believe that he's moved there. He's retired to this little village where it's based on trust and community, and he is abusing it. He's using his scally mank ways.
Bloody hell, Lakers, there's no bread again.
There's old women
Was
going
empty.
hungry.
Yeah.
The cats aren't getting fed, and your father is just. I can't. That's obscene. That's obscene.
Oh, I think it's a die thief. That fella from Manchester.
I don't even think they've got Sky there yet, have they? They can't listen. They won't know what's.
I think you stitched him right up. I hope you have, actually. I hope he goes down for it. I hope he's hounded out of the community like Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah.
They should get burning torches, go up to the
Set fire to
mansion.
his cottage.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right, well.
He's out of the choir.
Yeah.
Tell us about this woman.
Well, it was just because you were saying about the, our living.
We are broadcasting now, aren't we? This is actually going out, this is live. This isn't as sort of like...
Yeah, but you were just talking about how I lived in an odd village.
Yeah.
With kids with big heads and all that, right? And what I wanted to do.
What is that again? There's 2 kids with big heads.
Yeah, they just had sort of big heads and webbed hands and that. They went to my school. And when I spoke to my dad the other day, because I'm going to see my mum and dad tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
So I said, have we got any school photographs with the big-headed kids in? And he said, no, nobody bought those sort of school photos because they were in it, so it was always a bit ruined. So I said, well,
No.
he said sales were, because he obviously talked to other dads and stuff like that. And he just said, oh, no one bought them. But anyway, so...
I would love them.
Yeah.
I'd buy them.
Yeah, but I wouldn't stand out, would I? If it's on the mantelpiece.
Yeah, well.
So, but anyway, so I was talking about,
When you say they had big heads, what do you mean? Do they look like someone from Doctor Who?
they were just quite big.
But they weren't related.
No.
So why did 2 blokes with big heads and webbed feet?
I lived in a weird area. There was
there
a chemical plant close by.
I can't believe you've never told us that before. That explains a lot. Not just the freaks in your neighbourhood, but...
No,
well,
loads of
truly.
weird, there was loads of weird stuff going on. There was this, like I said, there was this woman who used to live in one of the council flats, right? And she had a 3-wheeled sort of big. What do you call it?
Son, 3-wheeled son. He was the weirdest bloke we ever knew.
What do you call it? Like a big tricycle, but for an adult rather than one for a kid. It was a big
It
one.
wasn't a motorbike though. It was a
No, it was a push bike thing.
Yeah.
And she used to sort of ride down the road with a fella sat in the basket on the back with his legs dangling over, and they'd be going to the pub and what have you.
Was it a different fella each time or the same one?
Yeah.
Little sort of bald-headed fella.
Sure it wasn't collection for organs and things. Bring out your ill. And then people just throw Grandad just in the back and go, right, we get 4 quid for Grandad.
But she's
He's got a lovely pair of testicles on him. They're very low, but they're
Bring out your dead or nearly dead.
She used to pick on her husband quite a lot. They'd be in the pub and what have you, and they'd be sat by themselves, but she'd always be sort of, having a go at him, moaning at him, sort of pushing him about and that. So my dad and his mate, right, they went round to their house, knocked on the door, she answered, and he said he was a copper, right? He said, Detective Pilkington, gonna come in and have a word.
So I'm just going to make a note of impersonating a police officer.
Yeah, but for the good, he went in and sort of said, "Now I've heard,
it's the superhero.
Yeah.
I've heard, you picking on your husband a lot.
Yeah.
We'll be keeping an eye on you. Do it again, and there'll be trouble." And she backed off after that. She
That's
was
good.
alright.
And how was the husband? Was he still in the basket though? Was he allowed to ever sort of ride up front with her? Or was he just always in the
No,
basket?
she'd sort of stopped picking on him in public places and stuff.
That's
like
good.
that.
Just
You can't get done, can you, just for doing that?
I think impersonating a police officer.
Well, you
is
probably did.
criminal
There was no gain. I think you can't impersonate a police officer full stop, but I think they'd probably be lenient on him that he was, But let's face it. He's not going to be caught because why would anyone know? But it's not like his son's going to say it on a radio station, is it? And stitch him right up.
Is this something you did generally? Kind of a little bit of light vigilante work?
Just whatever, and his mate, just, you know, if they saw something going on, they go, what can we do? What little scam can we do, or whatever.
Oh, that's fantastic! That is brilliant. Right, okay, coming up, Knob News.
Smashing Pumpkins, Cherub Rock. That, of course, Rick, is available on their greatest hits.
Brilliant.
If you want.
I mean, that's how I rock. So
Yeah.
I know they. I'm very much the shape of a cherub as well.
Well, indeed.
Naked with a couple of
And a rosy big arse.
and a trumpet.
Yeah.
Do they have trumpets?
I don't know. I've just had an email here. Monkey news
Yeah.
from a listener. Monkey spotted holidaying in Cornwall. A chimp was spotted holidaying in Cornwall last week after befriending a family of 3. One onlooker said, "It was incredible. He dressed and behaved exactly like a human being. He even settled the hotel bill at the end of their stay. The only telltale sign was his lack of table manners and the incoherent babble when he opened his mouth." There we are. So,
Well, we do that, Carl.
that's the listeners, Carl. That's Joanne.
Amusing, articulate, accurate. She remembered exactly who's there and everything, setting in the bill. It's all there. So I mean, even though people think that you're slightly simian, you know, slightly less than human on the evolutionary ladder, they do listen to you. So I mean, I don't know who's more stupid in the end, you or the listeners.
Well, you may recall, Rick, that at the end of last week when Carl had to shoot off early, we issued a little request for listeners just to bombard Carl's email with just pointless emails that really weren't about anything, just to clog up his email for when he returned.
Yeah.
Rick, they sent them all to us.
Brilliant.
I mean, that's the kind of listeners that we've got. We've got reams here on our email of just junk.
I mean, it's like a Marx Brothers plot, isn't it? I mean, just
ludicrous.
listen.
Listen to what we say.
I got one, about a shaved cat. Well, that's not pointless, I'll be reading that later.
Oh, you're loving it, yeah.
I'm happy.
That'll keep me going for a couple of weeks.
I'll be reading that later.
Did you get to the monkey sanctuary? Because this was the big thing. You were going into Cornwall, you were going to visit the monkey sanctuary. I've never seen someone more excited. You had 2 days put aside for the monkey sanctuary.
I know.
How did it go, Monkey World?
We were on our way, right? I found like a little, in the little cottage that we had, right? It's like a little folder, you know, with little leaflets in saying if you're into mountains, you want to go here.
Yeah.
If you're into castles and that.
the
Little
castle
monkey
world.
on the leaflet, right? So I thought I'll be needing that. Took that out, made sure that's safe and that, right? We get in the car, getting ready to go. My dad says, "Where is it?" I look on the back. It's in a place called Low or something like that, right? Yeah. So we're on our way. Can't believe me luck. It's going to be a great day and all that.
Yeah.
And then start looking at the leaflet, right? And noticed didn't have any chimps there.
Yeah, it's not Monkey World.
It wasn't a monkey world.
Well, what was it called then?
Something like
Monkey Town.
yeah, it was just it had like woolly monkeys in it. That's what.
It had what?
Woolly monkeys.
What are woolly monkeys?
Those things Johnny Vegas off the advert. Loads of them. They're dumped now since ITV Digital went under, so they just put them in a cage.
I don't understand.
They're woolly. They're like they're sort of like little fluffy little baboon type things. Woolly monkeys. I mean, it's not your chimp. It's not your classic chimpanzee.
So did the car screech to a halt?
It was like
Yeah.
it was like the mission in Armageddon. I just said abort. We're on the way back.
So how far had you got before you bothered to read the leaflet?
Probably about 5 miles away from where we were.
So what did you do with yourself? You must have been distraught.
We
Well,
went
they
to,
broke down, and then they heard banjo music. Down.
No, we went to a sort of an amusement place.
Brilliant. I'd love to see you in that. What, with putting those coins in, so it has to roll down, and they go flat, and then an arm pushes
It
them.
was one of them.
Really?
But
I
I'd worked
spent
out
years on that
con.
when I was little.
Well, there's a new one. I can't be bothered explaining it, but it's a con. We went to this place, right? My mum and dad had been there before, and they said, "You'll love it. It's brilliant. It's got like a war bit in it."
A war bit, right?
Yeah, like because they know I'm into tanks and stuff.
Yeah.
So you'll be loving that.
So, sorry, I didn't know you were into tanks.
No.
Well, they're all right.
Brilliant. He's gone from one of his childhood passions to, well, they're all right.
I know, yeah. Go on.
And but it was awful. I mean, my mum and dad had been there before, and he said, "No, you'll love it." But it was like a really miserable day.
Sure.
Right? All the rides and that were broke.
Yeah.
Broke!
It just reminds you of Manchester.
My dad just ended up, he was more interested, there was a really fat family there.
Well, presumably he was breaking into the machines, trying to scoop off the cash.
I like the fact that those poor fat family were going, why are those people looking at us?
Yeah.
Oh, do you want to ride one?
No, but
we're not a ride.
They were massive, and he just like, look at that, look at the state of that. A whole family.
Yeah.
Just, you know, fat.
Bloaters, yeah.
All right.
No, but because fat, there's no need for it, is there? And he was really like, oh god. And then he wanted to follow them into the House of Mirrors to see what they look like. But my mum had got bored. She went off to buy a little Snow White figure. She couldn't believe her luck. It was only $2.99.
Yeah.
She thought it was going to be really expensive.
Sure,
so she
she's
bought
classy
one of
lady.
them.
Yeah.
So she enjoyed that. And then my dad says, come on, we go in. It's rubbish, this.
But the fat family wouldn't let him play with them.
So he just said on the way home, he said, I can safely say that I never want to go there again before I die. So that was that. And then we went home.
Why would he ever give you that information? In case it was like a secret birthday present. You
Yeah.
go, oh god, what if they get me a trip to here? Or if he's in a coma and you go, I'll tell you what, I'll bring him out of it.
That fat couple
yeah.
by his bedside.
Yeah.
But Suzanne said she now realises why I am the way I am after spending like a week with them.
Well,
She
they
said-
told her that they dropped you on your head as a kid, or
No, just like, you know, the way they act and that.
right? Yeah.
Then they were saying things like, Suzanne, so, why is the moon out at night in the sun in the day? Oh god.
Yeah.
Oh god, there's three of them.
Suzanne, can you tie my shoelaces again?
It was the bit when my dad said, don't waste money on a coffin for him, just put him in a bin bag.
Your father said that about himself.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great idea. I'm glad you mentioned that, because
That is great.
that gives me an idea.
Carl, I love that look of Carl. Carl is looking back and forth. You know when you sort of you go to a cat and it looks back and forth between two people. That's very much like Carl's looking at us now.
Or when, like, a child sees a midget or something in the street. They're just transfixed, aren't they? And the parents go, don't stare.
When we were pushing Ash, just our producer's in a wheelchair, and we were pushing him
He's
through
not
the
a
VC.
midget, we should make
No,
that
he's not a little midget. He's not tall. But we were pushing him through the VC, and this little kid just came up and just stood in front of him and looked at him.
Yeah.
I just laughed.
It was funny. Do you do that? I imagine that you get caught staring at things.
Yeah, do you go up to people with problems and go, Mummy, is that a monster?
Well, I was telling you one about when I used to go with my dad in the taxi.
Oh, yeah,
What
tell us
happened?
this story.
Well,
Your father was a taxi driver?
my dad he had loads of jobs, which he did back then. They don't do that anymore, do they, people? They don't
Have a
do
variety of
loads
jobs?
stuff.
Sure.
But at one point, he had a black cab, and I used to go with him. Used to get a beer crate and put it in the front of the black cab, and sort of sit just next to the
Comfortable.
meter. And anyway, we got this call, and like the guy on the end of the radio said, "Oh, you've got your son with you, haven't you?" So he said, "Yeah." So it's just like, you know, we've got to pick up at number 11 Village Lane or whatever. And he said, "Oh, all right." And it was this woman. It was like a woman version of the Elephant Man.
Wow. The Elephant Woman.
Yeah, it looked. It was really strange because I was in the front of the cab, and when you're a kid, if something looks odd, you're a bit scared of it, aren't you?
Yeah.
And my dad was like, "Look, be all right." And we're driving towards her.
Lucky, don't worry, son, I've got loads of buns.
And just to
I think
give
I'll
you-
just throw one down the street if you run after
You're
it.
being mean, right?
I am a little bit,
So
yeah.
how old were you, 18?
No, I was about 12 or something like that. 11, 12. And as we got closer to her, it looked like she was holding like a bag of spuds on her shoulder,
For a snack.
Right.
and her head was all a bit mangled and messy and that. And my dad said, whatever you do, don't stare at her face.
Yeah.
And she got in the
Because you
back.
turn into stone.
She got in the back, and I had like the mirror, the driver's mirror thing, and sort of having a look, trying to work out. And I mean, he said, don't stare at her face. I couldn't work out where her face was. It was that weird.
Oh, God.
So I'm not sure you're from Manchester. I think you're from, like, Narnia or something.
Yeah, you got frog boys walking around.
The Lord of the Rings.
That got like the claws of a lobster and the head of a toad.
Yeah.
And you got women getting in with spuds for heads. I mean, what
This is
sort
not
of, what
Manchester.
is
This
this
is not the place
place?
you grew up. This
Yeah.
is mad.
Oh, you can't believe it in London, can you? You come down and you go, look, symmetry. It must be amazing.
It must be a thing to do with upbringing, though, mustn't it? And because again, do you know I've said to you before, years ago when I was a kid and didn't have any worries, good-looking lad, you go through it a bit, have a few more worries, and you look knackered. Now back there's a lot more worries and stuff, so you get a lot more freaks. Whereas in London, everyone's like happy, aren't they?
I love the fact that stress can cause your fingers to fuse and your heads to grow.
No, but if
She must have been really stressed to have a head.
Yeah. She was
Thanks,
was she an accountant or something?
you know what I mean.
But what did she do? What did she say?
Where was she going, by the way?
She couldn't speak.
London Zoo, please.
I think she was going to like
To the fair.
Seriously, honest to God. On my mum's life, she was. Because at the end of the day, that's a good thing with animals. They don't judge you, do they?
She's not
She was an animal. She's a human being.
Not actually an elephant.
No, but
You know the Elephant Man was not actually an elephant. You understand that? He's got no elephant genes in him at all.
No.
That was just a cruel name people gave him.
Yeah.
No, it's the name of the disease, isn't it? Elephantitis.
Look, so listen. So this woman, why was she going to a pet shop?
She was going to a pet shop. What, to find a husband?
Is this true?
No, it is true, yeah.
Oh, God.
I'm not taking the mickey, because it must be really bad for
Of course it is.
Carl, I
we
need to
haven't.
ask.
I'm going on to you today about cutting myself shaving.
Yeah.
I was going on about that. To think that she's probably not alive now, but to think,
But you're saying you're going to say this is a worse problem than a little cut shaving, aren't you?
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I
The
think you're
things
right.
that
Carl,
you worry about.
there's a couple of key questions I need to ask. One, if she couldn't talk,
Yeah.
how did she tell your father where to drive it? Did she have it
Probably
written on
got
a
some
note?
help
Did
for
she
that,
point
haven't
with her nose?
Yeah.
we? Right, this has got silly. Pick your song.
But and also, finally, where did you say she lived again?
It was like in a village, a little small village.
Right.
Just hidden out of the way.
All I'm saying is we could maybe get like some sort of coach, book some coaches, get a coach party up there to have a look at her.
So
Take some photos.
And now
You can make some lemonade.
the offspring of a woman and some spuds. Please enter at your peril. Should it give me a shiny shilling?
Wow.
Oh, that's terrible. Well, I'm going to play a little bit of Teenage Fan Club song for the lovers here. We left it very late, which has been just rapping with Carl P here, and this is I Need Direction.
I mean, my dad, right? He can like put windows in his house,
Yeah.
do plumbing.
He should. It's dark, isn't it? He's done that first of all. Right.
So he can do what? He's got a multitude of different
Yeah, he
jobs.
can do all sorts. Do you know what I mean? If there's a problem in my flat, I can call him up and say, you know, this isn't working. What should I do? And he'll say like,
Is that not brain surgeon?
he'll say, oh, fix it.
Sure. So what about Monsters Inc? What do
Yeah.
you make of it?
It's alright. It is a kids' film. It sort of annoyed.
Is it?
Okay.
I was having like.
what gave that away? Do you think?
Could I just say also that I do not advocate the use of vices on friends' heads. It's dangerous. Do not squeeze your mate's head in a vice. That's just between me and Carl, and and
Gervais is an experienced annoyer.
and he probably wouldn't let me do it, to be honest. I have to offer him an awful lot of money. Also, do not smoke. There's no point. And floss. I wish I'd flossed when I was a kid. Also, if you've got a bicycle or anything like that for Christmas, please wear the correct safety gear.
Whoa.
What?
Well, I got a bike as a kid.
Yeah.
Right? And my dad, I think the helmets used to come with them and what have you. I popped it on, went out on my bike, coming back into the garden. Dad sees me. He said, "Come here." I said, "What?" He said, "I never want to see you wearing that helmet again. You look ridiculous."
Carl, have we still got Monkey News?
We've got Monkey News coming up.
Now, you must be disappointed because you didn't make it to the Monkey Sanctuary, but you still managed to scrape together Monkey News on your holiday.
Yeah.
That's
So I
impressive.
found some of that. We've got.
How do you get so many breaks and holidays? Because you went away with Suzanne's parents. You've just been away with your parents. That's a couple of weeks, 10 days. So that's probably about 3 weeks in all. You had that. You went to Manchester. You had that day off because your trousers were wet. I mean, and I suppose because you've only got one job, and I've got a lot more. This is just one of my jobs. But I mean,
don't you ever count your blessings? Go, God, thank God, I can have time off. I don't work too hard. You know, I'm not stressed too much.
No. It's just all to do with when you do work, do a lot. So I get a lot done.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I'm always doing stuff. I mean, even though when I was in Cornwall, right, I'm sat there on the grass.
I'd love to just sit on the grass.
You're too busy.
Chill out a little bit. I know, yeah, well, you know.
Me dad and Susanna playing crib, right? I'd sort of fallen out with him at
Your
that
dad
point.
and Susanna playing
Why did you
crib.
fallen out
Because you do
with
live
who?
in the 1940s.
Yeah, why did you fallen out?
Because with crib, have you ever played crib?
Yeah.
Right, you've got to be pretty good at maths.
Sure.
You've got to make your cards add up to 15 and all
Well,
that.
yeah, I was just gonna correct you on you've got to be good at maths. Yeah. What, algebra, quantum physics, what?
No, just adding up.
Adding up to 15. Brilliant.
I mean,
You can almost do it on your fingers.
my dad's,
You could in Cornwall.
Yeah.
but my dad's really good at maths, and like he said, how many have you got? And he always counts his, and it's like 15 2, 15 4, 15 6, 3 for your at, 1 and all that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He adds it up really
One
quick.
for his knob.
Right, so I was like, right, hang on a minute. And he goes, no, what do you mean, hang on? I go, what have you got? He said, oh, forget it. I said, this isn't fun if you're going to start getting all arsey with me.
Sure.
So,
Get it? Yeah. I love it. But I don't know him, but I'm sure he's just winding you up. His victory is you going, forget it, I'm not playing.
throughout my life so far, I've never planned for anything, right? It's just always happened.
Yeah.
The time, you know what I mean, being in plays at school, never planned it, but when I did it, I went down a storm.
It was
that sort of
fun.
thing.
Yeah, we all remember that.
So,
As I remember, you did Little Donkey.
did Little Donkey, yeah.
And then later, someone was filming at the back. Was it your dad's mate?
My dad's mate. Well,
Yeah. And on the camcorder, he listened to it back, watched him playing it. His dad says, just off camera, what does he say?
I don't want to say it because I'm in charge of the show and I'd be irresponsible.
He looks like a right twat.
So,
And so he gets home, listening, watching that, and then here's his dad just off camera go, he looks like a right twat.
yeah, alright, yeah.
What are you worried about? Your dad saying that
Sorry,
on the
can I
word?
just interject? Because I'm really worried about this idea of Carl being on MTV. Because the problem is that, you know, let's be honest, Rick. I mean, we're getting by the skin of our teeth, aren't we? Really, it's
Yeah.
only Carl that's keeping this afloat.
Yeah.
And if he gets on MTV and the world sort of gets a sense of him and they understand him, and he won't be ours anymore. We won't be able to control him. It'll be out there. It'll be in the.
Well,
public
that's
domain.
the thing. No, that's the thing. That's the terrible thing, though, isn't it? It's like Carl is my pet, but I realise I've got to release him into the wild, sort of. And you know, because I love him, I know he's got to go free.
Sure.
But I wanna.
It's like Kez. Maybe someone will beat him to death, and we won't have to worry.
I'll have you on though, I'll have you on as a guest.
Yeah.
Which gets me on to something we've got coming up today.
Oh yeah, he's got a new idea.
Yeah?
Right.
Do you know, like, I've talked about ghosts, and we had that good discussion the other week walking to Piccadilly Circus Station, yeah, and I was telling you about ghosts, and you were saying, Carl, don't be an idiot, and all that. Spoke to a woman in the week, done a little interview with
You've
her.
done a little interview.
Done
Brilliant.
a little interview, 2 minutes or so, with a woman who's got ghosts in her house. So,
I look forward to hearing that later. That sounds brilliant.
coming up later.
Well, I'm going to play a classic tune now. I've just gone straight for it. I've gone for the jugular. This is Ziggy Stardust by David Bowie. Ziggy Stardust by David Bowie on XFM 104.9. I'm Ricky Gervais with me, Steve Merchant, and Karl Pilkington. Carl's also nervous. You had a bit of shock last week, didn't you?
Just a little bit.
His dad tuned in.
To the show.
Yeah. And Carl's never told him that he actually speaks on the show. He just said, I just press the buttons, right? He's kept him from it. You used to do radio before and you never told him, did you? It's because of the little donkey incident.
Yeah.
When he went along, so...
Was that the twat incident?
Yeah. And so he's never told him since, but they promised not to listen, haven't they?
Well, my dad said, my mum said to me, don't worry, don't be put off this week, because, you know, I've told him he can't listen, but I hear my dad in the background kind of going, bollocks. So, he might be listening. So that's extra pressure. Plus a camera crew in.
I know. You don't like it, do you?
This is good training for MTV, because then he can watch you on TV, and what's he going to make of that?
Oh.
Yeah.
Does he know you're bald?
Yeah.
You don't keep your hat on when you're with him and say, oh no, I'll just press the buttons.
No, it's just, you know, it's like when I was in any plays, I didn't tell him.
No.
Any sort of parents' evening, I never gave him the note.
Really?
Yeah.
So what did the teachers think? You were just an orphan?
No, just on an off chance. My mate's dad spoke to me dad once, I think, and sort of said, oh, you go to school to see how, you know, your kid's doing. Is that what you're talking about? So there's a parents' evening, so he went
Said what kid?
he went to one, and that's when Mrs. Matthews said I'd never be a high flyer.
How wrong was she?
Yeah.
I think we should call Mrs. Matthews and make her eat her words.
Well,
She'd turn on to MTV when, I don't know, like their slamming session.
Yeah.
And they go, that's young Pilkington. He's bald, but it's definitely him.
I recognise that woolly hat.
Yeah.